If you're a man and you don't have Surfshark on your phone or on all your devices, because one subscription works on all your devices as it happens, what are you playing at? You mean to tell me that you've never wanted to change your location to watch that game of football that's not on your local broadcast? Have you never wanted to do that? You have wanted to do that. You've never wanted to see the cool shows they've got on Netflix in America? I'm sure you have. You've never wanted to watch a certain kind of fun content in the UK, but your government don't like it. Got to prove your identity just to have a bit of fucking alone time these days. Not anymore. Yeah, not with Surfshark. The gift that keeps on giving is what they've described it. By they, I mean me. Because it doesn't just do the fun stuff, it also protects you online. You want to log into public Wi-Fi and check your banking or check your emails without worrying about a data breach. It protects you. Surfshark encrypts your internet connection and keeps you completely safe. And getting this to work is so easy that even an idiot like me finds this so easy. Just one click of a button and I'm in America. Brilliant. And this product is so good that they've done a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied, which you will be, man. Every man should have this app. It should be a thing that we grade each other on. If you're in a bar and you see a mate and you got Surfshark and he goes, what? And you go, well, you haven't heard of it. What's wrong with you, like? Genuinely, where the fuck is this going? It is class, though. I'm not even lying. Like, it is absolutely class. And that is why you need to click the link in the description below and get your 4 months extra of Surfshark when you use our link, surfshark.com/kickoff. Get it sorted. Get on it now. Welcome back to the Kickoff. I'm here with 2 of my favourite Newcastle YouTubers because Newcastle has become such a crazy situation that I need backup now. We need a committee to figure this stuff out. Shout out to our guest for the day, Ben from The Noise, and also Antonio Mango. Lads, the reason I wanted to have you on, you both live and breathe Newcastle, and you actually study football. You really pay attention. You don't just spout off. You actually show tactical breakdowns on your channel. Love the channels. And just thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
We've got a lot to get stuck into, so I'm gonna quickly move into this Bruno Guimaraes, however you want to say his name. It doesn't matter anymore. He's going. I just wanted to sort of say personally, I never expected it to feel like this with Bruno. When the news first broke, I kind of was like, yeah, I wish him well. Legend of the club. But this has been so painful, the way this has dragged on. And to be fair to him, it's the way Arsenal have played the situation. But now I'm just like, just get him gone. Just get him gone and use the money for the new manager. Because I'm actually now feeling grateful for the way Spurs acted with Tonali. Like, we got all the money, they did it quickly. Like, that was a pleasure doing business with Spurs. What do you make of this?
I'm the same as you. I think just get him gone now. We'll move on. And then we'll get the situation, because we can't just rest on our laurels, and we can't just say to Arsenal, look, do you want him? This is the valuation. Put your bid in. We'll move on, in my opinion, because he definitely wants out.
That's the thing, though. Like, there's so many Newcastle fans I watch all the content, and there's still ones going, maybe the new manager can convince him. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Have you been paying attention all summer? Like, this guy has made it abundantly clear he is done, and I think it's just time to be pragmatic. And do you know what? We get into the new manager later, but it kind of feels the perfect time to do this now, because I think with Eddie, I was at the feeling of like, if Bruno goes and we keep Eddie, that's Eddie's saviour, the one who bailed him out constantly last season, and then we've got no one. With a whole new manager, fresh approach, new players, it feels like a good clean slate, and it's a clean slate that I don't want to do without Lewis Hall, and that story is now rumbling on, and I personally don't think this is going to happen. I'm worried. I am scared of it happening, but the main reason is Newcastle have proven ourselves to drive a hard bargain with Isak, with all of these players like Tonali. Man United don't want to play top dollar. They're on a budget at the moment.
I kind of feel the same about Arsenal, to be fair. Like, they don't pay top dollar, and that's kind of why I'm not saying he's not going to not go to Arsenal. I'm not entirely sure they're actually still going to meet our valuation.
It's the fact that they're cheapskates.
They're using bully tactics, really. What they're trying to do is back Newcastle into a corner where it gets to a point where they've got to accept what Arsenal give.
Can I just bring something up, lads?
they're doing that because Bruno has enabled them to do that. By him coming out early doors before they even made a bid. Let's not kid ourselves. Bruno has forced this move. He hasn't behaved impeccably here. Do you agree with that?
Definitely not impeccably. Not as badly as Isak, I wouldn't say, because I still think if the bid isn't agreed, like if the deal isn't agreed, I still think he will go back to training.
What about the Lewis Hall situation, though? Do you think that that's something we need to worry about, or do you think Man United will try a 50 million bid and we'll just reject it and that'll be the end of it?
Are we really going to sell everyone like this late into things?
It would be mental. We still haven't patched up like bits of the squad that needed done 2 years ago. So like, giving ourselves more problems would be insane. And especially when we've got the kid on the contract for a few years, he's so young. His value is only going to go up. If you're a business, it's not going to go down. He is class. It's going to go up. So look, let's move on to Eddie. The final game, 4-1 defeat to Bristol. It was energyless. It was clueless. It was everything we've come to expect from an Eddie Howe team. And at the end of that day, I remember just sitting there and thinking, I would literally take anyone at this point. And ironically, we got someone who I'd barely even heard of. But like, thank God, were you of that frame of mind of just like, please, like we are staring relegation in the face? Or did you think maybe there was hope for next season with Eddie?
None at all. I think looking at that Bristol game, like it was a second string side, so you kind of have to like allow for that a little bit, but it was still just the exact same. Like it looked like a carbon copy of every performance that we saw last season.
Like the Gateshead one, bearing in mind, we played Gateshead, we couldn't score against them.
I was just about to say that, when you think about the Eddie Howe, you don't just think about that Bristol game. You look at the course of the season, and the majority of games were like that. So it's not like it's been a pattern, a consistent pattern, because you can give off a one-off performance like that where it just doesn't go your way, players haven't got the energy or whatever, but it's been a consistent theme. So that's why I didn't have any motivation or excitement going into it.
It was terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember saying to people towards the end of last season, like, people were like, oh, who do you want to sign over the summer? And I was like, I don't think it fucking matters.
Yeah.
Isn't that mad though? Like, this is where when people think Newcastle fans are unrealistic and unreasonable for wanting rid of Eddie. And it's like, do you understand what it means to be a football fan when we're passionate and like us three live and breathe this, and to be so unenthusiastic about watching your team play to that level of like, it does feel like you're suffering it instead of like getting any pleasure out of it. And I think that Fulham game for me was the one where when Bruno subbed himself off, when the lads down tools, when there was nothing to show like, at all against a team who are very beatable, that should have been when Eddie went, this is gone, this tactically, motivationally, we're finished here. Eddie decided not to say it's over then, and he still continued to tell the club 100%, there's plenty of fire, plenty of wood to burning for me. I'm absolutely ready to go next season. And I've made a timeline here, and I realized that by the time he finally told the club, about 9 weeks had gone by before he even, I know it was a couple of weeks ago now, but it was about 9 weeks after that game that he told them. And I'm like, why did you take so long? Do you have any main theories, boys, as to why he took so long?
There's this story that's been put out by obviously like his mates in the media that he told the club last season, but I'm like, well, how did he tell the club last season when we were told by them same journalists that he saved his job with the Brighton game? If he saved his job in that Brighton game, and then let's say 2-3 weeks later, he came to the owners and been like, oh, I don't really think this is for me. Like, I don't think I can continue this. If you've just saved your job, your boss isn't then going to talk you into.
Put yourself in the owner's shoes. If your manager's coming to you and saying, I've done enough, I'm ready for a break, you're not going to sit there and try and convince him to stay, because eventually you're just kicking the can down the road, and eventually it's just going to get worse and worse.
A lot of people say Eddie put the club first. Oh, he put the club before himself. What a guy. And I'm like, putting the club first would have been admitting at the end of that season that it was done because it was very obviously done. I think he wanted to lay it back and say, let's see what happens. He knew they were going to sell some players, so that's not an excuse for me. This is what happens with every football club, be it Aston Villa, be it around our level. I mean, You didn't see Iraola when Bournemouth sold their entire defence go running. He adapted, he rebuilt, he showed the fight, he stuck around with the club. And I think Eddie has waited to see how this unfolded, waited to see who his director of football was going to spend money on, and evaluated, have I got enough tools for the job this season? And he's been very opportunistic, quite selfish in my opinion. Bruno, I think, being the last straw of, well, if Bruno's not here to save us, I am fucked. So I better go before I get the bullet and before I'm exposed next season even more than I was last season.
I mean, Luke Edwards basically confirmed that. Like he literally wrote an article, and I think he's kind of dropped Eddie in it here because maybe it's because he's very, very emotional about his best mate leaving or his lover. I can't really tell which it is. But he wrote that Eddie said to him, "Why would I wait around to get the sack when I can just leave amicably?" Like he quite literally confirmed that it essentially
Which
is
a good
self-preservation.
thing, but just do it at the start of the summer, given you, and when there's a whole bunch of managers available who are Premier League proven and are available. As he's literally waited until every good, like, known manager who we probably would have been interested in has been snapped up, and then went, actually, no, I think I'll go.
He would have sat in an interview with the owners, with Ross Wilson, and he would have been told the whole direction. You don't keep that from your manager. You tell him what direction we're going in. When you Anthony Gordon was leaving, when you Sandro Tonali was leaving, in the back of his mind, if you ask him truthfully, I think he knew Bruno was leaving. I think Bruno had a discussion before the end of the season, in my opinion. I don't think just because Arsenal have come up.
Yeah, I think it's logical, given his age and everything. And like, let's be real, you have conversations with your captain.
Exactly.
Let's not act surprised. This is the same surprise that we got when Alexander Isak wanted to move, and it was like, but Isak's like, no, I fucking told them months ago.
Yeah.
So that's unacceptable. But one of the main problems I think Eddie had was having a director of football. And as much as this nice guy Eddie image is out there, he's actually not without his flaws. And having a director of football to have to work with, he doesn't want to work with them.
Yeah.
And he's seen off multiple directors of football. It was not Ross Wilson's, a new one. You had Mitchell, and then you had Dan Ashworth. He got rid of both of them by cutting their nuts off and going above their head and basically rendering them useless and saying, I'm the one who's really in charge here. These are the guys who are just there to kind of deflect. When a player wants a new contract, you go, oh, that's actually his issue. You can take it up with him, and then I don't have to be the bad guy. That's how he used them. He never used them in the traditional sense. And the problem with that for me is managers are thinking of the here and the now and not the long-term future of the club. So with the director of football, they're trying to replenish the squad and get younger players in and ones that are going to flourish in the long term, whoever the manager is. Whereas Eddie's thinking about the right now. And if you look at his transfer strategy, I counted 12 players he spent roughly 50 million each on average. But the shit players that weren't getting moved out of the squad, and it was like a plaster over an axe wound strategy. You're not actually fixing the issue. And that's where a director of football has to force a manager to do that. But they couldn't because they had no power. So when Ross Wilson comes in and they clearly go to Eddie at that meeting at the town hall and they're like, look, you've tried it your way. 250 million, you've spunked it, it didn't work, we've lost trust in you, we're now going to give the reins to him. Really and truthfully, at that moment, Eddie should have admitted, I'm not down for that, because I think that's one of the main reasons he's eventually left. He's thought he could be all right with it, and he's watched these kids coming in, and he's like, nah, fuck this.
What we heard continuously this summer from the CEO and Ross Wilson is selling at peak, being good sellers, selling at peak times. And that's something that we didn't do under Eddie Howe when he was in charge. We kept the likes of Dan Burn, Fabian Shaw, Jacob Murphy, not selling them at the right time. So then we did have money to replenish. And that's probably why we went a couple of transfer windows without buying anybody.
So like Fabian Shaw, for example, is a great example of like not having to go at the guy who's been a great servant, but like a smart club, if they've got 60 million, they go 40 million on, the now and 20 million on the future replacement of Fabian Shaw. Whereas Eddie Howe would take the whole 60 and go, keep Shaw, 60 million on this guy. Do you know what I mean? And that was the way he operated for years. And it was just stupid. And that's where you need a director of football to control that.
I feel like the alarm bell should have been ringing with someone when Eddie Howe said towards the end of the last season he doesn't want another window like the one before with loads of incomings and outgoings. We knew that was going to have to happen.
Yeah.
And he was like saying, oh, well, I just want to kind of bring in like 2 players or something like that. Like, it was never going to happen.
Mate, 700 million spent, and Jacob fucking Murphy was the captain against Bristol in a 4-1 defeat. Like, and this is why I'm as much as I'm angry at Eddie, I'm like, thank fuck he finally said it, because radical change was exactly what we needed. Like, when we're watching these countless shit performances, I'm like, if we don't do radical change, then we're fucked. There's no way we're going to make top half. It's going to take that. I think the most damning thing on Eddie's squad management so far is the fact that we spent all this money. We bought your likes of Gordon, Tonali, Bruno, Isak, all of those kind of players. And they've all come in after Jacob Murphy and Joe Willock, and they've all left before Jacob Murphy and Joe Willock. That says everything about Eddie Howe's squad management, and that's why we're now having to do 3 seasons of squad management in one summer window, and that's why I'm angry at Eddie as he's leaving. A lot of people are like, oh, you're still not happy. Yeah. Like, it's not just about what you win at a club, it's about how you leave it, and that's the thing that some of these fucking idiots don't seem to get through their head, is like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if he leaves you in an absolute fucking mess because we won a cup. That's not on that.
No,
for me.
the way to leave a club is the way that Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool. Left. That was a hero's way to leave.
You leave with the squad and club in a better place. Now, people will argue that we are in a better place because we're not battling relegation when you first took over. I understand that. But again, you've got to look at, we're on a major rebuild now because of what's happened between that period.
And ironically, the thing that Eddie said he didn't want to happen, which was having to bring a whole bunch of players in one go, which I get why he says that. That's not the ideal way to do it, but it's because of him that we need to do that. That's and what I don't want is for people to rewrite the narrative. Like, I watched a podcast the other day, loaded Newcastle lads, and there was a question of whose job is harder. Was Eddie, when he first took over, harder, or was Matthias Jaissle's job now harder? The fact that that's even a question.
Yeah.
The fact that we're wondering, is this harder after £700 million spent since Eddie Howe took over, says everything. And let's be honest, even mathematically, lads, a 12th place finish with 17 defeats. Like, if that doesn't tell you we've gone all the way back, or if not close to square one,
well, that's what I was going to kind of say. Like, with a 3rd most backed team to get relegated,
when you put that way,
that is insane.
Oh no. Lads,
that is crazy,
you know what?
when you put it that way.
Let's be real though. That's a smart bet, right? If you're out there, I know there's neutrals who watch the kickoff, right? Like, if you're looking at Newcastle and you're going, last season, what was between Newcastle and a relegation scrap? You go, Bruno's goals, Altamada's goals, right? That's it, right? Well, Bruno's left. So Gordon's left, Tonali's left, and we've replaced them with very young players who
I don't think it's a smart bet now. Now that we've got a new manager, I don't think it's a smart bet. But it was.
But let's be fair to him. This new manager, expectations wise, and we'll get into this properly.
Yeah,
we do have to kind of taper them big time and kind of realise the situation Eddie's left us in. And I don't think it's fair to rewrite history for Eddie because everyone loved him. To act like he's left us in a good position. And that's where that self-preservationist and his own reputation in his mind is gone, I don't want to fight. I'll let them get on with this. Very similar to what fucking Bruno's doing, you know? So as much as we love them, let's not rewrite the way they're really behaving here. And you touched on it earlier. We got to fucking mention this. The media and the fans, right? I do think that the love of Eddie Howe for some people had blinded people. And now it's actually it's ironically what they've accused me of, and probably you guys a little bit for a while, of like, because they don't want to have been wrong about Eddie, they're hoping he fails. And I find that amazing because people used to say that about me, like, oh, you want Eddie to fail to prove you right. I wanted him to prove me wrong. Eddie did prove me wrong in that once upon a time I thought he was fucking great. And I was wrong about that. And I've got no problem admitting that.
Yeah.
But what do you make, lads, of just that fan base element right now and the toxicity that Jaissle is going to walk into here?
I think one comparison that will be made a lot is Jaissle's first season to Eddie Howe's first season. And I think it's a really unfair comparison because obviously Eddie Howe worked miracles in that first season. And I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but he was also riding the wave of a takeover. The entire fan base, the entire city were just buzzing when that takeover went through.
And there was no expectations, was there?
And
Not
also,
really, no.
also, to add to that, he spent 60 million in the January transfer window. He brought in Bruno, Trippier. So
Dan Burn,
no other
Cole.
relegation club got 60 million to spend.
He spent more than 60 million, actually. He spent a fuck ton, right? And when you've already got Callum Wilson and you've got established players that maybe have been underperforming and you can now get a tune out of who know the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like, it was an easier situation to inherit, ironically, than a bunch of kids who've never played in the Premier League, a manager who's never managed in the Premier League. Will the media in Newcastle be understanding of that? Because as we all suspected for fucking years, there's two journalists in particular who've been hanging out of Eddie's arse for the longest time, denying that they're friends with him. And lo and behold, it's come out that they're now having personal conversations with him, begging him to stay when Eddie's saying, I think I'm going to... It's absolutely insane. And I want to point out what's really funny about this is, like, again, nice guy Eddie. Actually a total politician, Eddie, in my opinion. The more we look back at him, the fact that he went to these journalists early on as he took the job and reached out to them, what can you tell me about the area and all that, got them on side, and I'm like, you fucking clever bastard. Yeah. And that journal had no idea he's being played like a fool, in my opinion, because Eddie butted him up, got him on side, knowing if I make you feel like my friend, you're going to be, when it's going bad, you're going to refrain from criticizing me. And it's that classic thing of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. It was genius from Eddie. He played them, right? Because what's happened is they've spent all these years, when shit finally hit the fan, loving Eddie, and they've avoided criticising him, and they've blamed it on Volta, they've blamed it on the fucking fans, the weather, anyone, right? And now what's happened is Eddie's left the club, and now every football fan in this fan base looks at them and goes, no credibility. You literally, we do not believe a word you've got to say. And now Eddie's gone, and they're still here. And now no one fucking takes a word they say seriously. He has played them for a fool.
I had a look back on Twitter, one of these journalist posts. I had a look back, I searched Rafa in his post. Bear in mind, Rafa was like a bit of a hero here, right? And I had a look through. Everything that he said about him was negative. But one time he also compared him to Steve Bruce, someone who quite universally isn't considered a hero here. And he tried to defend Steve Bruce by comparing him to Rafa and was just criticising Rafa constantly. And what it is Steve Bruce, Eddie Howe, they had time for these guys. Rafa didn't. And I can't imagine Jaissle's going to have time for him either.
Jaissle's a bit of an assertive character. He's not as warming is Eddie Howe. So
I love that. He's the opposite of Eddie, isn't he?
Yeah,
I fucking love it.
He's pretty much the opposite. So I don't think he's going to have as much time for them, which the journalists won't like. So they might get on his back from the start. But
do you think the daggers will be out early on? That's my question.
100%.
Yeah. I think it's up to Jaissle to win them over, but I don't think he cares about that. From what I've seen, just watching him, his demeanour, everything, which I do like about him. I'm not discrediting it. He's just like, if you're not with me, I don't want to hear it.
I really am so grateful because I love this Germany shirt and I'm like, Voldemort, going to be sold, and then I'm like a right weirdo. Now we got the German vibe going on in Newcastle, and I get to keep my shirt, which is great. Matthias Jaissle, much like our new player profiles, young as fuck, potential is very high, unproven in this league, and obviously comes with a lot of promise. The more I've learned about him, and I've done as much research as I can in a short space of time, the more excited I'm getting. And but again, I'm happy to taper my expectations of like, it's going to take time. But the fact that at Salzburg, he won back-to-back league titles, he won a cup, then goes to Saudi, wins the Asian Champions League twice, beats Ronaldo's team in the cup final there.
That's the only time that's ever been done as well. Winning the Asian Champions League twice in a row.
Yeah, and he's doing that, as a very young manager in difficult circumstances in that at Salzburg, he had a bunch of kids, including Jaissle. And then obviously, yes, he had a couple of star players in Firmino and Mahrez in Saudi. But reality is it was a mix-up of players. And I think that they sold 28 players when he came into that league and brought in 15. So he's used to a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
But this is another level entirely. So I'm just wondering, lads, in terms of excitement, where are you at with this guy?
I'm just happy for any amount of change, as we said earlier. Like, I'm just, as I said, well, like when I said about like the transfers, like when people asking me for the transfers, I was like, it doesn't matter. Like now I'm going into the season with just like I can get excited about something. Like I have no real expectation for him because I don't know that much about him. I'm just like, I can be excited about something. I can be excited about the chaos to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Well, Antonio, you've obviously done a deep dive into his tactics. There is a worry from a lot of fans with him being unproven that it may be an Andre Villas-Boas situation. You know, where he looks the part because he certainly does. He looks cool as fuck, German fucking James Bond.
He does.
And he's got that confidence. And I think he's been kind of harshly dubbed like a lunatic on the sideline because he can be a lunatic, which I'm more than happy about because Eddie was so fucking boring. Just having some personality and I think that'll play well in with the crowd. But
I agree.
You know, is there any fear from you that we could be looking at an Andre Villas-Boas situation or a Big Ange where, you know, that it doesn't translate in the Premier League?
I think with it's like anything, like there's always a risk. Style of football, I think the fans are really warm to it. I really do, because it kind of epitomizes everything we like about football. It's hardworking, it's front-footed, it's move the ball forward as quick as possible. Does like possession, but it's more with a purpose of how can I break down the opposition, which I do like. And there's some adaptability, so we're not going to see the same formation, the same tactics week in, week out. And I promise you that, because even if you watch his RB Salzburg sides, he was adapting his formation, giving different instructions, behaviours all the time, which was, for me, as somebody that likes to look into that side of the things, it's fascinating, which is one of the reasons why I'm excited.
It seems to me like there's an element like sort of similar to Eddie Howe. It looks to me like there's that side out of possession, which we knew was very sort of like trademark of Eddie Howe. It seems like there's also an actual emphasis on emphasis, on with the ball. Like, what, you know, there might actually be patterns of play. The players might know what the fuck they're doing when we have the ball.
Well, one of the things that frustrated me last season the most, lads, was when we would get the ball, the side-to-side passing, like going from the fullback to the other fullback, and it was so gutless, in my opinion. You know, people talk about bravery, about clattering challenges and winning headers. Bravery to me is when you get the ball, are you brave enough to do something with it? And when he said on an interview I watched, I want to get the ball as quickly as possible towards their goal, I just thought that is so simple.
Yeah.
But it's been severely lacking for so long at Newcastle in that. I mean, look at the Sunderland games and that. It just took forever to do anything with it. And the more time you take on the ball, the better organised the opposition's defence is going to be. It isn't rocket science, is it?
Exactly.
So just hearing that, I'm like, with an Alanga, for example, someone who failed miserably last season, if that philosophy can save anyone, it might be a player like him.
100%.
It may be that players like Nick Voltemora, who I love obviously, and I really wanted to come good, maybe we might see a rebirth of some of those players. And with these younger kids, the fact that he's willing to trust the youth, which he's had no choice in his young career, I think with Bamba, Sean Sturr, Lewis Miley, now having to really rise to the occasion, this could be long-term a great appointment.
Yeah.
Short-term, we could be in for some pain. And I'm prepared to accept that. Like you say, as long as there's a trajectory there of, all right, I see where this is going and there's an identity being built, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to be like, oh, this guy needs to go immediately because we've had a couple of hard months. I'm willing to give this a shot.
Yeah. I think one thing that really kind of excites me with this guy coming in is who's actually going to be the main striker now, because we were kind of led to believe it was going to be Asula for next season. There is a possibility we see Voltemada back up top again, or maybe
Ross
even
Wilson, mate. Ross Wilson earlier in the summer came out and said Voltemada is not for sale. And the quote of the article was, Ross Wilson really likes him. And I was like, well, you better fucking tell Eddie how he's good, because he doesn't know. But so now that sort of makes sense. And I think we all kind of, when we signed Torre, the winger, I was like, bit of an Eddie Howe profile maybe there. I'm not really sure who's behind that. But then Sean Sturr came in. I was like, that's not Eddie Howe. Like, I was watching... Yeah, they're too good on the ball to be an Eddie Howe player. Like, there was no focus of what happens when we get the ball with their signings. And I think Ross Wilson is making me feel encouraged by the profiles he's going for. Like Sean Sturr, both-footed, a bit like a Bruno profile, ironically, and always looking for those, balls in between the lines. And one of the main things that I've heard as a quote from Jaissle was he likes problem solvers. He doesn't want to overcoach players moving forward. He wants them to figure it out to some degree and have their own intelligence and let creativity flourish. And for me, when I come back to Alanga, from things I've heard behind the scenes, there's a lot of overcoaching of players like him. And when you see how further forward he played, for example, for Sweden, and how much more effective he was in a bit more of a freer role, players not necessarily just told to stick out wide and just whip crosses in and hope for the best. That gives me a bit more hope.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I put it down to the football being slow, really, because you look at the behaviours of Anthony Alanga. He wants the ball quickly so he can attack the space. That's what he's good at. And I think with somebody like Jaissle, will come into it. But what I do like about Jaissle, and you touched on it there, Brian, he doesn't micromanage. He just says to them, this is what I want you to do. I'm going to platform you to get into this position. I'm going to figure out a way of how to get you into the best positions. And then you've got to use your own imagination and creativity. And I like that because looking back at last season, I'm going to be honest, the players look bored.
They're so bored.
The players look bored. And I think
everyone in St. James's Park was bored.
Yeah. And
literally.
I think with Jaissle, because he allows them that responsibility, players love that. They love that trust. They love to bring out what they can do. They want to showcase what they can do. And
another thing that I really like is the idea of playing with a proper number 10 and potentially break. I mean, look, he's very tactically fluid, which is a great thing. Maybe we won't do that, but having players who, aren't just stuck in that one position and easily marked out of the game, especially when it comes to strikers. I think Voldemort personally is better as a striker. I think the further away from goal he is, the less impactful he is. Yes, he can drop deep and do a bit of the Harry Kane thing, but actually his best position that we've seen from him, in my opinion, is as a striker. And people say he can't close down. I would disagree. I think he showed that against was it Leverkusen? He clattered the keeper, got a penalty, closed down against Sunderland. We got a goal. I can't remember
the exact stat, but I think when Voltemada turned up, he'd had a goal contribution. I'm sure it was every 70 minutes because I remember betting on it basically every week that he was going to get one. And for the first 10 weeks or so, was it? For us, he was keeping up them numbers. And then Eddie Howe was just like, oh, no, I don't want you up there anymore.
And this is the thing is, his finishing, for all he has good ability, and yes, these penalties aren't great. God, I've fucking sacked that argument off, haven't I? As I was saying, he should be taking them ahead of Gordon. He made me look stupid. But his finishing is his thing. And I think if you can get a manager to curate players around him and give him that support that he had at Stuttgart, where you constantly had multiple players making runs off of him and not wingers who were so deep, like against the Man United at Old Trafford, against Sunderland. Our wingers were so deep because it was defend. Worry about them. Worry about what they're going to do. There was no ambition. It killed Voldemort. And I think that this gives us a prayer that maybe we didn't waste 60 odd million because we might actually play in a way that unlocks him, hopefully.
You look back at last season and I put it down to Voldemort being isolated. Every centre forward that played for us last season was isolated. And if you didn't have pace like a Sula where you can just create your own little problem, then you weren't going to score goals. That's
not repeatable though, is it, mate?
No,
in terms of you're relying on something falling in the box and just latching onto it. And you can do that for a few weeks, but...
And that's why I thought Johan Wissa looked a little bit poor because isolated again. And I think with Jaissle, if you think about Eddie Howe's system, you can picture everybody being in their zones. Like there was no movement to try and, because movement kills in football, so that's how you break down no blocks, in my opinion. And I think with Jaissle, you'll see like a midfielder going out wide, whereas with a winger coming inside, they'll have that rotation, which I think will help a player like Valdemara, because he's got the vision where he can spot those little passes when he gets on the ball, and he needs those runners around him.
Let's talk about what needs to happen from now till the end of the window then, lads, because it's mad, right? Because it's like, we've signed like 4 or 5 players. I feel like in losing Bruno, we're going to need a special player to come in. And I don't mean a like-for-like replacement. I just don't even think that's possible at this point.
I agree.
I think a special talent, meaning maybe we spend a bit more than my usual bracket to look for a player who, and there's rumours of the lad from Holland potentially coming in, who looks like a player. Yeah, he's got a lot of goals and assists.
I'm just going to say something on that. Those rumours are true, but apparently it's going to be down to the manager if he wants him.
Allegedly, he does.
Haji Musa.
When you look at the goals and assists, and you look at, they've got those diagrams now where you see all the fucking, stretched out. And I seen one of them comparing him to Gordon and Bonds last season, and I'm like, all right, it's the Dutch league, but he was outshining them in every department. So I'm like, all right, that's the sort of thing I'm wanting to see, where I'm like, we just need more creativity, because having 4 underperforming wingers, losing one and bringing in one is not enough. Like we need another winger or another creator who's going to play in the final third.
I think definitely a winger and a centre mid. I think the one after that has to be a centre back. With Shaw going out injured, Botman looked fucking horrible in the last game.
How bad is Botman? He's terrible. I don't know why we give him when we give him a new contract, I'm like, I kind of get it, but I feel like his career is going downhill right now.
Horrifically.
I think we still need 4 or 5 signings. I'm going to be honest. I think we've got
fullbacks as well.
I was just about to get on that. The goalkeeper looks like he's coming in. I think he's a good goalkeeper, and I think it's a good signing. We need a centre back, a full back, midfielder. And we desperately need more creativity, because this summer we've lost 3 of our biggest creators from last season in the Premier League. Tonali was our 3rd biggest creator. Gordon and Bruno. That says it all. So we kind of rely on the likes of Jacob Murphy to be our creators, or because
the only thing that gives me a bit of hope creativity wise is we're actually going to see a lot more of Valdemara on the pitch, I think. And he has, I'd say, probably more creativity than all of them. And
he won't be so deep.
Yeah.
I hope not. I really hope not.
I don't think it will be. I think the one thing about Jaissle and what he's said in his interviews is he looks at the strengths of these players and he tries to avoid weaknesses. Just common sense, isn't it?
But not
you know what I mean? Like,
just finally, before we wrap this up, boys, what do we want to see from him as a manager? If there's a thing that maybe Eddie didn't do, or you really are missing from previous generations of Newcastle teams, if there's anything he can bring to the table, what would you want from it?
Try and win the game. Don't set up to not to lose. Set up to win. So it's just about having that desire to win. I think you'll really buy into the passion, because I think if you watch him, it's all about passion. He's got that like club mentality. Do you know what I mean?
You see him arguing with the referee.
Exactly.
When he's like literally laughing in his face, he's like, "You're fucking taking the piss."
He's a bit nuts, which I quite like.
Mate.
You look at what he's done over his career. Worked with youth players. He's happy to sell players at the right times. And he's developed players, because I was looking at like Adeyemi, Benjamin Sesko's numbers before and after he arrived. Everything about them improved. The shot locations, where they're taking the shots from, the shot selections, the goal numbers, overperforming their XG. So it looks like he knows how to work with individuals as well, which I think is important when you're bringing in youth.
What do you want to see from him, Ben? What
I think, for me, in-game management, even back when we were good, the subs were very much just always like for like, winger for winger, and I think for me that's the main thing. I need to see in-game management change.
You've covered exactly what I'm thinking as well. If there's one little bit of icing on the cake I could sprinkle on, it would be, apparently as a communicator, he's far more happy to be open with people about tactical, changes, and including the players. Apparently, if you're not playing, he'll tell you why, and he'll want you to understand the situation. And I just think he's immediately I get that bravery from him of not. I'll explain that to you, and it's not a problem. Whereas Eddie shied away from any sort of confrontation with the media, with his players. I can't imagine him having those sort of conversations. I think he's an avoidant person, and as a leader, I think that's one of Eddie's biggest weaknesses. Is there's an element of cowardice in him, and I don't see that with this guy. And I think with the media, when we have those uncomfortable moments where we are losing games, there'll be, it wouldn't be hard but there'll be more honesty, and I'm looking forward to that, and not having to listen to lies.
I think that's a great word you used, honesty, because I think with Eddie Howe sometimes it did come across a little bit disingenuous because he was trying to force the right answer rather than the honest answer. Do you know what I mean?
He said we played well at Bristol.
Yeah, like forcing the right answer when you just want a bit of honesty. We weren't good enough. Bristol, where he said we played well. Like, it was just forcing the right answer. Whereas I think, from what I know of this Jaissle, he's just honest. If we weren't good, he'll tell the players we weren't good, which I like. And I want to say one other thing. Iriola didn't win in his first 10 games at Bournemouth. And they're stuck with him, and look where it got them. So that's about just expectations and stuff. He might not win in his first, because we've got Liverpool at home, might not win. I think we might win on emotions more than anything. But I think it's
so many new players, so many young players.
Exactly.
You've got to give them time.
Exactly.
And what's funny is it's going to be us saying give him time when people accused us of unreasonably wanting a manager out. And it's like, well, no.
Yeah.
We had a long time of data from Eddie of failure. We didn't just do that overnight. Some people went earlier than others, but ultimately it was the right decision. And what those people are now going to be thinking is, we hope this guy fails so that we can throw it in our face. Yeah. Just because we said Eddie Howe had to go doesn't mean we appointed Jaissle.
Yeah.
We didn't have,
I get criticised.
If he fails, it doesn't prove us wrong. We didn't appoint the guy.
I get criticised all the time for being fickle or whatever. And I'm like, I was as patient as I could be. I tried for so long. I tried to be patient, and eventually I was off. I've had enough. I can't do this anymore.
I was getting comments on my video saying, just say the words Eddie Howe out. Because I wasn't saying it. People were like, just say it. But
I know, right? No. You were fence-sitting, you bastard,
yeah,
for a little while.
What I'm worried about the most is the media that didn't watch us religiously last season. Because you still look at TalkSport and stuff, and they're still like, well, Eddie Howe's not to blame.
Fucking idiots, them lot.
Yeah.
The amount of shit takes I've seen from TalkSport, and it's all because nice guy Eddie, and he hasn't been backed enough. I'm like,
that's what they said.
I think part of it comes down to, and this is why he was dishonest in interviews. I think he's incredible at PR, as you kind of said about manipulating the journalists in the first place. Yeah. In his interviews, always saying, "Oh, we played really well." If these people who don't watch us week in, week out see this stuff, they're going to be like, oh, well, they must be just...
He's inoffensive, isn't he? Yeah. There's nothing to dislike about Eddie, because he never says anything of any real, he never rubs anyone up the wrong way. He never... Whereas, and I don't actually like people like that. I don't trust people like that. Especially in a passionate sport like football, you can't be the person you're making yourself out to be inside. Mm-hmm. There's no way I believe that. And with this guy, I think one of the main disadvantages immediately is he's not English. And Eddie being English and being England's next manager, which I find hilarious, because if you thought fucking, the last one was, last tournament was a cop-out and a cowardly bottle job, well, then you've not seen now yet if you hire Eddie Howe, in my opinion, because you're going to get more of that. I'm going on and on. We're going to have to wrap this up, right? We are going to have to wrap this up. Just got to wish the guy luck, really, innit? Yeah. It's going to be a rough start, in my opinion.
It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, for real. But look, I'm here for it, and I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about this football club again, and I'm hoping that this change in the long term, if not the short term, can bring something to us, boys. Big shout out to both of you lot. If you want to check your channels out, I'm going to put the links in the description below for Ben's The Noise YouTube channel and Antonio Mango. Check them out.
Appreciate it.
Hit the like button if you haven't already. Thanks, lads.
Cheers, guys.
And, subscribe to the Kickoff. We'll catch us on the next one.